Hi YouTube, I hope you all are doing great. In this video, we are gonna see caching. So this will be an introductory video where we will see what is caching, why caching is important, and some of the real life examples where you encounter caching. So first of all, let's see what actually is caching. Caching is basically a technique used in computing to store and retrieve data in a faster and more efficient manner. Okay. Let me give you a very basic example. You might have seen if you hit a website for the very first time, it takes maybe 3 to 4 seconds to load. But if you visit that website for the second time or more often you visit that website, it loads very faster. Why? The answer is caching. We will see how it happens, but this is the reason where caching comes into the play. So why we use caching? To store and retrieve data in a faster and more efficient manner. Okay. What happens actually? Let's suppose there is a website. Okay, let's suppose this is a website. Okay, and when you hit for the first time, it goes to the server and retrieve the data and it render in the website. Okay, but maybe it will take 3 to 4 seconds. But what happens, it try to store some of the informations like some images or some scripts. It is stored in the client memory. Okay, and which is that memory? It is the cache memory. Okay, you might have seen primary memory, secondary memory, but there are also cache memory. So some scripts, images are stored in this cache memory. So in next time when you visit the same website, instead of going to the server and downloading and rendering that resources, what it actually does is it try to retrieve the data from the cache memory. So it is much faster because all the resources are already stored in your system, so it is very easy to download it and render it. So that's why caching is a very important technique. Second point is accessed more quickly. So the basic idea is to store copies of the frequently accessed or computationally expensive data in a location that can be accessed more quickly than the original source. So maybe in a website there is a huge image, okay, like in a banner, okay, there is a huge image which is high quality image. So if you are trying to get that image every time from the server, so it is a time consuming, it is a expensive data. So every time whenever you will hit that website, if you are not using cache memory, then every time if you hit that website you have to go to the server, you have to download it and then you have to render it. Instead what you can do is, if it is a very expensive resource, then you can store it in the local, in the cache memory. So it will help to access the resources very quickly. Okay, then reduce the latency. Okay, all these two topics are also helps to reduce the latency. Basically it helps to reduce latency, improve response times and enhance overall system response. Okay, so you might have seen if you are visiting a website and it is taking too much time to load every time, then maybe your interest will be dropped down. Okay, because it is having high latency. So every time we want reduced latency, if a website is loading very faster, we show a lot of interest in it and it's kind of good for us also. So if we will use caching, the latency will be also reduced. Why it will be reduced? Because we are storing the expensive resources in our local system, which is the cache memory. Okay, now, why caching is important? So the primary goal of caching is to enhance the speed of data retrieval by keeping a copy of frequently accessed information in a location that allows for quicker access. Okay, so these are very crucial for a lot of reasons, like improved performance. Like caching reduces the time it takes to retrieve data, thereby improving the overall performance of application and system. Because obviously we are storing the objects or the resources in our local system, so it will reduce the time to get that. Okay, then reduce latency. Okay, if let me give you a very quick analogy to caching. Okay, so let's suppose you are a librarian. Okay, and more often people are coming near you and they are asking for let's suppose a book called Harry Potter. Okay, so every time a person comes near you, as you are a librarian, you have to go to a shelf and pick up the Harry Potter book and then hand over to them. So it's obviously it's a time consuming. It is increasing the latency. But what if you keep a copy of Harry Potter book near you? Every time the user is coming, and you know that Harry Potter is a book which is most often in the demand. So every time if someone comes and call you for a Harry Potter book, you can directly hand over that book to the person. So it will reduce the latency. It will improve the performance. The customer who is coming near you will be very happy that okay, I received the book very quickly. Okay, so this is kind of like you are doing some cache. Okay, you are having some local storage, cache memory, and where you are storing that book. Okay, so improve performance, reduce latency. We know that by storing frequently used data closer to where it is needed, caching minimizes the time it takes to fetch the data. That it will reduce the latency. Okay. Now this is a very important part, bandwidth conservation. Okay, bandwidth conservation like caching helps to conserve network bandwidth and server resource by serving frequently requested content from a local cache rather than fetching it from maybe from original source every time. Okay, so what happens is, again, let's suppose there is a resource is in demand. Okay, every time you have to go to the server, download it, render it. So at this point the bandwidth is basically not conserved, it is being used. But what if the resource that is in high demand, I am storing it in our cache memory, so this bandwidth will be empty, this bandwidth will be conserved, that can be used for different use case. So if we are designing a system and we are taking caching into consideration, it will be a huge bonus for us. Okay, now let me give you some more example, more real world examples where you have seen caching. Web browser caching. Okay, so when you visit a website, your web browser cache various elements like images, style sheets, scripts. Okay, because these are the parts of that website. The next time you visit the same website, your browser can retrieve these elements from its local cache instead of downloading them again and again from the server. This speeds up the loading of the page and reduces load of the server. Okay, you might have seen like if you go to your anything like, let's suppose, let's go to the, this is Google Chrome, and let's go to the settings page, and if you search for cache, okay, so you might have seen there are some cache memories. See, cached image and files. There are different websites whom I have allowed to store it in the cache memory. So I have stored 318 MB. Okay, this may be distributed among different websites. So some scripts or some style sheets, some images I have already stored, so that next time these websites can be launched very quickly. If I will clear this, then there is a huge chance that some website will take some more time to launch than they are currently doing. Okay, so basically this is a very huge bonus for when we are doing system designs. Okay, so now the second one is operating system file cache. Okay, so operating systems all also often use this file caching to speed up access to frequently used files. Okay, like when a file is read from disk, a copy may be stored in a cache. Okay, if the system file is requested again and again, the operating system can serve it directly from the cache. Okay, avoiding the need it to read from a slower disk, because we know that secondary memory is very slow. Okay, secondary memory is very slow, and also the primary memory is also slow. Okay, as we compare to cache memory, because cache memory is very very faster. Okay, so it's very good to store the information in the cache memory that is in highly in demand, so that it can be quickly available. But obviously the size of secondary memory is way higher than cache memory. The size of cache memory is very small. Okay, that's you can say that's the negative side of that memory. Okay, okay. Then database query caching. So in database system, caching is oftenly used to store results of frequently executed queries. Like if a query is made and the same query is requested again, the database can serve basically the result from the cache instead of re-executing the query, reducing the load on the database server. Because obviously, if you are querying to a server, it will have some load on the database server. But if some queries are you have to execute it more oftenly, why don't we store that information of that query already in the cache memory? Okay, it will reduce the load on the database server. Then most important one, and you might have heard a lot about CDNs, content delivery networks. Okay, so CDN uses caching to distribute content to multiple servers located around the world. Okay, so that the resources will be quickly available. Okay, when a user requests a resource, the CDN serves it from a server that is geographically closer, okay, reducing the latency. Then the CDN cache copies the content and delivers it effectively to the users. Okay, so these are some examples where actually caching is being used. Okay, so in this video, we have seen a lot of things like the introduction to the caching, what is caching, why caching is important, and also some examples of caching. In the next upcoming video, we will see about the basic cache architecture, how a caching architectures look like. Okay, so that's it for this video. If you have any doubt, you can ask in the comment section. I feel very happy to hear from you. Meet you in the next video. Till then, bye bye.